The New York Times reported that you had a phone call with Maduro. Did you?
I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit
No,
about
I can't do that.
Mr.
Would you
President,
say it went well?
I wouldn't say it went well or badly. It was a phone call.
President Trump on Air Force One last night confirming he did speak with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The Miami Herald is reporting that the president gave Maduro an ultimatum. As the U.S. weighs land operations in Venezuela, quote, the U.S. message to Maduro was direct. Safe passage would be guaranteed for him, his wife, and his son only if he agreed to resign right away. Venezuela condemning President Trump's statement that its airspace should be considered closed, calling it a colonialist threat. I want to bring in Florida Congressman Carlos Gimenez. He's a member of the House Homeland Security Committee. Congressman, I want to get your reaction to this. The editorial board at the Journal writes this of the high stakes in Venezuela. And they say Trump chose this showdown with Maduro, only one wins. They point to the fact that 25% of the Navy's deployed warships, F-35s, and thousands of Marines are in the region to merely blow up drugs. But this seems to be a bigger action against Nicolas Maduro from the administration. Your thoughts?
It appears so. I mean, there's a heck of a lot of assets just to get to drug boats, and also the ultimatum that was given to Maduro, according to these reports. I guess Nicolas Maduro is seeing the writing on the wall that his days are probably numbered. He wanted to cut some kind of deal. A deal that he cut with the Biden administration, saying that he'll have free and democratic elections, and we saw where that went. And so President Trump, if the reports are true, rightly said no, thank you. You need to get out. You need to resign right now. You are the illegitimate ruler of Venezuela. There is a legitimate government in waiting to take over. You are also the head of the Cartel de los Soles. You are a narco trafficker, and we're not going to be dealing with narco terrorists.
I want to ask you about these strikes against these narco-terrorist boats, because the president did make a lot of news last night, and he was asked about these allegations, these reports that are putting the blame on Secretary of War Pete Hegseth for the strikes, in particular the first one where this boat, it wasn't just one strike, it was two, but there was only the release of the one video of the one strike. Listen to the president last night.
Can you talk a little bit about the strikes and the controversy around Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth?
I don't know anything about it. He said he did not say that, and I believe him 100%.
So you don't know if there was
You're talking about the two men?
The second strike to kill the two men.
No, he said he didn't do it. He said he never said
Would
that.
you be okay with that if he did?
He said he didn't do it, so I don't have to make that decision.
What do you do with a boat strike? If there were a second strike that killed wounded people wounded in the first strike, are you thinking that would be legal?
Number one, I don't know that happened. And Pete said he did not want them. He didn't even know what people were talking about. So we'll look into it. But no, I wouldn't have wanted that. Not a second strike. The first strike was very lethal. It was fine. And if there were two people around, but Pete said that didn't happen.
Congressman, there are now growing calls for an oversight hearing and investigation. Your thoughts on this?
Look, it just seems all strange to me that you get the Democrats coming out with a video saying, do not follow illegal orders, and then all of a sudden you get this. Apparently, these are anonymous kind of whistleblowers that's saying that something happened here. So, I smell a rat here. I'm pretty sure that the Secretary of Defense had nothing to do with something like that, and it's just a way of distracting from what really happened in D.C. Last week, where you had the murder of one National Guardsman and then the wounding of another by an Afghan refugee, and so and I think it's just a distraction. So I'm with the president on this one. I don't believe the reports. I don't believe that Pete Hegseth said that. But going back to what it's all about, this is a strike on we're striking terrorists that are bringing poison into the United States. This poison has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. And so to me, it's no different than if that was a boat full of al-Qaeda terrorists heading to the United States, full of bombs. It's actually worse than that, because those drugs can actually kill far more Americans than any bomb-laden boat can.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with these strikes on these narco-terrorists.
Well, certainly no. I mean, the administration has said that you're saving 45 million American lives by taking out these drug traffickers. I mean, these are boats full of drugs that never made it to the shores of the United States. You mentioned the issue in D.C. I want to bring that up with you because one of the two National Guardsmen that was shot on Thanksgiving night still is fighting for his life this morning, Thanksgiving Eve, excuse me.
Right.
Trump administration is now hardening their immigration stance. And it was revealed that this suspect is an Afghan national, entered the U.S. in 2021 under Operation Allies Welcome. There's a new report that shows more than 5,000 Afghan nationals brought into the U.S. after the 2021 chaotic withdrawal were flagged for national security reasons, Congressman. There's been a lot of back and forth about who was vetted. Were they not vetted whatsoever? I want to get your reaction to that.
I mean, obviously, look, a lot of those Afghans that were American assets, they did help, us while we were in Afghanistan. And so there's some kind of a duty that we have to protect them because they probably would be killed if they went back to Afghanistan. But they have to be vetted correctly. And also, what happened with this one individual? He was an American asset in Afghanistan. What transpired here in the United States that radicalized him? And so we need to find out was he acting alone? Or is there a network? If something else is going on, obviously we've got to do a better job of our vetting process. I don't trust the Biden administration did that. Obviously, look what happened. You had tens of millions of illegal aliens coming into immigrants coming into the United States. Many of them, most of them, were not properly vetted, and that's why you ended up with Tren de Agua and all these gang members and all these criminals coming in. That's not to say that they're all gang members or criminals, okay? But too many were let in, and now we're suffering the consequences of that.
Yeah, and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem saying that he was radicalized here as well. So there's a lot that needs to be looked at, and we know that the administration is investigating all of this. I do want to move to the business of the day for you. Today, of course, Congress returns to Capitol Hill. There's only 3 working weeks left to address the expiring and enhanced Obamacare subsidies. You've got this massive year-end legislative agenda, Congressman. So let's talk about this, because in particular with these ACA subsidies, there seems to be a lot of back and forth and a lot of opinions as to what to do with this. You have millions of Americans that are going to see their health care rates rise. This could be politically dangerous depending on what state you represent. Where do you think the focus should be? And is it better to wait for President Trump and his advisors to come up with their plan to address the ACA? Or is it better for you and your colleagues to come up with plans to address it? The calendar is short here.
I think that we should cooperate with the administration and get to a plan. Look, before the shutdown, I co-sponsored a bill that was sponsored by Jen Kiggins from Virginia to extend the ACA subsidies. Why? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be the hardworking Americans that are depending on ACA for their coverage that are going to be left holding the bag on this expiring subsidies. I believe the subsidies need to expire at one time, but I also believe we need to extend it a year, maybe 2, and then fix ACA, because the Affordable Care Act is not affordable anymore. It's unaffordable.
It could be
the act doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It doesn't
so we need
work.
to fix it.
It could
but
be
we need time to fix it.
It could be an incredible win for the Republicans to fix what has been broken for so many years. I'm almost out of time with you, but I did want to get to this real quick. President Trump and House Speaker Mike Johnson reportedly are holding a tele-rally for Tennessee congressional candidate Matt Van Epps in the final push for that special election tomorrow. Democrat Afton Bain is going to rally with AOC and Al Gore today. She's still defending these past social media posts, including one praising those who think it's okay to burn down a police station, even saying at one point she hates Nashville. She would be representing Nashville, Congressman. I want to get your reaction on this, the broader picture here, what this special election could mean for the midterms next year.
I mean, look, it's supposed to be a safe Republican seat. And let's see how safe it really is. And so we need to take note of what happens in that election. I believe that we will win that seat, but also how we win that seat is also very important. That's why one of the things, that's one of the reasons that really I support extending the ACA subsidies. It's the American people that are going to be left holding the bag on that. Like you said, it doesn't work. We need to fix it. It could be a win for the Republicans. We need to be in front of it. and get in front of it and prove to the American people that we can govern, I'll be very interested in that special election, and it could be a bellwether of what's going to happen in November.
Yeah, many eyes are going to be on that election tomorrow, sir. Carlos Gimenez, always good to see you, Congressman. Thank you for being here with us this morning.
My pleasure.
All right.